Welcome to Jesus Christ Prison Ministry and another video Bible study. Our topic, Matthew, the Warnings, Part 3. For 2 centuries, the warnings of Jesus have been read. Very few have been listening. Time tends to erode confidence in prophecies and warnings. That is one of God's methods to test the hearts of those who claim to be Christians. Do they stay committed? Do they persevere? Do they continue treating the warnings as if they had just heard them for the very first time? Not many. Time is the great equalizer. You have those who start off gung-ho, but fizzle out. You have those who start late, but continue on. God has allowed time to continue because at the end, people will be able to look back upon time and see their true heart. Many claim to be waiting to meet the bridegroom. However, few are taking enough oil to keep their lamps burning. How is your lamp? Are you committed? Are you persevering? Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. Going to church is not taking your lamp. Going to church, watching religious TV, listening to religious radio or those online religious programs is foolish. Jesus told us that his words were the Spirit of God. That's in John 6:63. The Spirit, his words, are the oil that we need in order to keep our lamps burning. Without the oil of God, our light will go out. It is only through daily, earnest striving to know and obey the words of Jesus that we keep the flasks of oil for our lamps filled. Many become Christians and sit in church without a flask of oil. All they have is a thimbleful. They no longer dig deep in study of the words of God to keep their lamps burning. It is all about church and man's opinions, traditions, and rituals. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. In the 1800s, there was an initial rising to meet the bridegroom. A worldwide movement was proclaiming the soon coming of Jesus. However, because they misunderstood the coming of the bridegroom, the churches have all fallen asleep. Now they are stuck in the past, but the bridegroom is about to come. All the riots, demonstrations, conflicts going on between people today are the beginning of birth pains. The Spirit of God is being withdrawn and hearts are becoming cold. Do you have the oil yet? But at midnight there was a cry, "Here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him." Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "Since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves." Midnight. The world will be in a midnight condition, spiritually black. Do you know why Jesus will be coming back? Throughout history, the only reason God has had to step into world affairs was because righteousness had become so scarce it was unable to stem the tide of evil. We are not talking about right-out denial of God. We are talking about a time when the world will become very religious. Religious institutions and churches will be mandated. Jesus will be recognized and praised. The problem will be, as is now, they will love their religion, but not obedience to Jesus. When wickedness became greater than righteousness, God had to wipe them out with a flood. When wickedness became dominant, God changed their languages in order to spread people out around the world to keep wickedness contained. As wickedness continued to grow, God called Abraham to live the righteous life for all to see. His light was picked up by others and taken around to the then known world. Isaac and Jacob continued to let their lights shine in order to stem wickedness. Joseph let his light shine in a heathen country. It held back the tide of evil. The Israelites continued to radiate that light to the world from Egypt. However, when Egypt suppressed the light, God intervened. The Israelites were given a plot of land to continue shining the light of God to all the world. It was said of Levi, "True instruction was in his mouth, and no wrong was found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and uprightness, and he turned many from sin." Malachi 2:6. But when they lost the oil to their lamps, God removed them. This punishment revealed to the world that God will punish wickedness even in his own people, and wickedness was contained for a while. God allowed the Israelites to return to their plot of land on the condition that they would again let the light of God's righteous 10 Commandments shine to the world. They eventually hid the light again under the basket of church organization, rituals, traditions, and services. The light of God was almost extinguished from the heart of man. Then God had to come in human form to let the light of God shine out in such brilliance that the world would be able to see it for centuries. From his light, others took the oil of his 10 Commandments, living it so brightly that the light continued after his departure. However, by the 15th century, wickedness again almost snuffed out the lamps of righteousness. But God raised up faithful lamps through the Reformation to brighten the world with the Word of God. Wickedness is again draining the oil from lamps. Evening is falling upon the world. There are not enough lamps to lighten the darkness. When there are only 144,000 left who are living the perfect, sinless, and commandment-keeping life, it will not be enough to drive back the darkness. Therefore, God will have to come and put an end to the darkness. No person can fill your lamp. Only the Word of God, through His Spirit, can fill your lamp and keep it burning. From time to time, our lamps need to be trimmed and kept burning. Otherwise, the time will come when we will have no oil in our lamps, and the wick will stop burning. The oil of Christ's words was given to keep our lamps burning brightly with His character. Those words are, stop sinning, be perfect, and keep the 10 Commandments to get our eternal life. John 5:14, Matthew 5:48, and Matthew 19:17. That is why no one can give another their oil. Each must take the words of Jesus and apply them personally to the heart in obedience. We must look to Jesus, not our churches, pastors, or ministers. And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered, Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Jesus didn't know them because they did not live in obedience to his commands. They did not have his character. They did not have his light of obedience in their lives. They lived their lives sleeping in church, living as they pleased. The message requires people to think, study, and live in obedience to what they learn from the Word of God individually. This the churches cannot allow. In place of God's oil of truth from the Spirit of God, they continue in their human wisdom, liberal church theology, Pharisaical church systems, and rituals that have nothing to do with preparing lives for the coming of Jesus. Soon the Lord is going to come and take those few home with him who have his oil in their lamps. When the prophecies begin to take place that the Bible foretold, people will run to those who kept the oil of God close by and plead for some of their oil. However, the oil, the character of God, cannot be shared between people. The oil of God can only flow between God and each individual person. No church can give it to you. Then the others will come and say, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he will answer them, Truly, I say to you, I do not know you. He does not know them since they refused to believe him. They refused to accept his oil, his teachings, that they were to stop sinning, be perfect, and to keep the 10 Commandments to get their eternal life. Without it, all their church-going, services, rituals, and traditions were worthless. Their lamps went out, their character defective. The lamp was pretty, looked good, and may have been very costly, but the lamp was useless. Watch, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Instead of sitting in church, we must be watching our characters to make sure we are living the perfect, sinless, and commandment-keeping life Jesus commands of us. Then we will be ready to meet him, no matter what the hour or day, for we shall be like him. 1 John 3:2. For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went out at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went out and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Jesus, after rising from the grave, spent about 40 days on earth. After giving gifts to humanity, he departed this earth. Ephesians 4:8. The Spirit of God was sent in greater force to enable us to meet the challenges, the roadblocks, and the difficulties that the devil would put up around the servants of righteousness. To some of us, he has given very few gifts. To some, he has given many gifts. Each of us will be judged by what we do with our gifts. Looking at and judging others and what they do with their gifts is none of our business. God will reward us according to what we have done with our gifts. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. I am being rewarded mightily by putting to work the few little gifts God has given me. I try not to bury one of them. I want to multiply the gifts God has given me. At first, when this ministry started, we were not able to reach many inmates. But now, after 21 years of multiplying the gifts, we are able to reach thousands of inmates each year. Soon, Jesus is going to call you to account. Are you ready? He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast that worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. On the other hand, if we bury our talents in a church or use them foolishly for the world, then the reward we get will not be very pleasant. We will be cast into outer darkness. Most of our churches are teaching their members to bury or misuse their talents in the church. They are not being taught how to use them for the master. There will be an accounting on that day. Woe be to those who are buried in church. Not one servant was asked to compare his gift of talents with any of the others. None were to feel themselves superior or inferior to any of the other servants. Each was responsible only to his master for what he had done with his own gifts. What are you doing with your gifts? Thank you for joining JCPM and Jesus Christ for another video Bible study.